What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to my channel. Well, actually not welcome back, but like just welcome to my channel. Can you believe 2025 is almost done? Holy cow. Second to last day of 2025. And that got me thinking, with tomorrow being New Year's, hey, why don't, we see all over the place, why don't we do a 2025 recap and 2025 videos and what my highlights were, what my favorite parts of the year were, maybe some behind the scenes stuff that wasn't put out in any videos you might see too. And I actually thought it would be kind of fun because obviously with the new year coming, or with the new year just in 2 days from now, everybody's kind of reflecting, particularly, the end of the year and looking back on the year that we had, and wow, was 2025 ever a year. As anybody who's on this channel who might see this knows, 2025 was the first year that I posted content, recorded content for this channel, and I started not having a clue what I was doing. I never watched a how-to video or a guide on how, or suggestions, on how to make content creation or how to make a YouTube video, and let alone be successful, which maybe one day we'll get there, but optimism, maybe. And if not, I just have a lot of fun doing it. But I started out, I never watched a single video, how to director suggestions, this is what you need to do, until September. I already had 3-4 trips under my belt. That's 3 actually that I had put videos out for. 4, 5, 6 trips under my belt for the year that I just took the camera out with me, and I thought it was that easy. I thought it was as simple as I'm gonna go camping and I'll record it. It's not that easy, and as I'm learning, you definitely got to put some work into it, and you have to set aside the time to work and to create the videos. But it was a year. It was amazing. I did so many trips this year. I had so many fun times this year, and to boil it down to what my favorite was or experience was is really hard, actually. And I actually do, and I did manage to do that, but it was really hard. It took me a long time. It's December 30th and I'm just doing this video now, so there's that. You might not even see this till 2026 for all I know, by the time I get it edited and throw it out. But my first trip that I did of the year, I did back in May, and I did it on the May 2-4 long weekend. I recorded all that long weekend. I recorded, my buddy had lent me one of those little knockoff GoPros, and I recorded on it. I brought my big camera out. I had my phone. I recorded a lot of footage that weekend. Came back. I didn't even have a computer at that point in time. I actually borrowed my sister's laptop, downloaded the program, and did the video. The long and short of it is, it actually turned out terrible. It was terribly shot, horribly filmed, terribly edited, and I never even ended up putting out that video. I do now have that footage back, so perhaps that will be something that goes out in the future as a look where we started type of deal. But as of right now, it is just it's all personal. That trip kicked off my season and kicked off my year, and it was an interesting weekend. I had a massive thunderstorm. Holy cow, thunder booming, absolutely pouring rain during it. It was cold. It was super windy. The campsites weren't exactly the best. I went to Crab Lake in the Kawartha Highlands Provincial Park. I'm pretty sure that's it. Kawartha Highlands? I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Anyways, and I'd never been there before. Thought, hey, let's just go out here for May 2-4. And it turned out to be an amazing start to the season. Absolutely amazing start to the season. But I learned a lot on that weekend. just in terms of gear to bring, expectation versus reality, campsites and choosing campsites. And I think that was probably about it. Time. One of the things that I did learn was I lollygagged on my last day. I went Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Friday, Saturday, I can't, it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I went for 3 nights. Saturday night, Sunday night. Nope, I went Friday. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. Came home on Monday. And one of the things I had learned from that is I have, as most people do, a full-time job. And I had to go to that full-time job on Tuesday. But it was so cold on the Monday morning that I didn't want to get up and get out of my nice roasty toasty sleeping bag, so I lollygagged all morning. Had to paddle by the time I finally got out, I had to paddle a Wolf Lake. It's not super big, but it's a decent lake, and I had blasting headwinds on my way when I was leaving. It took me 45 minutes to paddle it on my way in when I came on Friday, and it took me over 2.5 hours to paddle it on the way out. It was just that windy and that treacherous. It was borderline. It was probably the worst headwinds that I paddled in up until that point in my life, the worst headwinds. So I learned from that. I didn't end up getting home till like 9:30 at night, and I didn't have time to make my dinners for the week. I didn't have time to do a lot of things. So I was I went to work the next day and I was still like, oh my goodness, I'm still tired and I need to process. I haven't gotten myself back into the daily life routine. So I learned from that trip that I always give myself a day when I come home now. If I have a week-long trip or a 2-week-long trip, I will come home on a Saturday so that I have this Sunday to process and acclimate back into regular life. The places that I typically go are not very populated either. They are pretty remote. And I find for myself, it takes me a little bit just to process everything that I went through and experienced, and just kind of take a breath of, wow, I got to be there and I got to do that. So I learned from that trip, always give yourself a day off before going into work. And I didn't freeze. I didn't get cold. It was cold though. So again, from that experience, and a lot of the stuff that I brought was heavier too, as far as a pack weight goes. There was only one portage on it, so it wasn't massive and it didn't really matter. But I also learned that you got to get lighter stuff, and lighter, stronger, better stuff. I actually joke with quite a few people, including my parents, just this Christmas that passed, about when you start out in something, and when I, in particular myself, when I started out doing this, my buddy asked me a whack of years ago, shout out Wes, to go on a backcountry camping trip with him, and I had no idea what I was doing. Camping, outdoors, sounds great. He gave me a pack. I didn't even know, I like a sleeping bag. I don't even think I had my own tent at that point. So I don't even remember. But the long and the short of it is this. He asked me to do it. Had no idea what I was doing. It was the most grueling thing I had done up until that point in time. But I loved it. And it was amazing, and I knew that I was gonna want to continue to do it. And then the next year the next summer he asked me to do another trip with him, and we did an even more grueling trek, which then I was a little bit more prepared for. I ordered my own pack, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, etc., etc. But I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it. So I ordered, you can get anything off Amazon, but I ordered the cheaper stuff because I was like, I'm not going to spend an arm and a leg on something that I might not do and I might not enjoy, and it's not worth it to me to spend $300 on a sleeping bag when the $50 one made in China will be fine. So that's what I did. Fast forward to now is with the gear, you know, you definitely, those things are great when you're starting out. If you're not sure if you're going to like it, if you're not sure you're going to want to continue to do it. But once you start going more remote with more portages and in different seasons, I mean, even at that point in time, I only really camped in maybe June, July, and August. September, and outside of those 3 months, it was non-existent. So the gear that I had purchased fit me and did me just tickety-boo for that period of time, those months. Now that I just have a love for it and a passion for it, which is why I do it. I don't care if I have 2 views or if I have 50 views. I just enjoy being in the wilderness. And now, you know, situations always change with friends and buddies and whatnot. I typically do it alone. And again, I absolutely enjoy doing it by myself. There's something about being self-dependent and self-reliance and knowing that surviving on yourself, being dependent on yourself. You know, ain't nobody's gonna chop that firewood for me. If I want a fire, I gotta do it. Nobody's gonna set the tent up for me. If I want the tent up, I gotta do it. So there's something very rewarding in that, and when you get back from it and you process it, you're definitely like, wow, I did that. And then there's a sense of, you know, a little bit of pride. I did that on my own, all by myself. And like when I had a bear come into camp, I guess coming up 2 years ago now, I had a bear come into camp and dealing with that all by myself. And then this past summer I had a moose come in, which was exciting and was super cool, but also something that, you know, I got to deal with myself. And I got the satellite device, the Zoleo, and, you know, I can communicate with it, but ultimately at the end of the day, whether I make it out of there in one piece or not is ultimately up to me. And everything in my power, I'm not depending on somebody else. So I thoroughly enjoy doing it by myself. But I think I just got off on a rant a little bit about that. And we were talking about gear, and, you know, now my seasons have extended. So I'm willing to pay more for the lighter stuff, the stuff that's going to keep me warm. And also you're looking at gear for, you know, fall and spring and fall versus just summer gear. It's looking at stuff that's, you know, maybe minus 18 or minus 20 because you're not quite sure what those nights might hold or where you might end up. So is it worth it now to me to spend the extra money and, you know, $300 on a sleeping bag or $500 on a tent or $600 on a tent? Absolutely. Because I know that I love it. I know I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do more of it. So that's where I'm at. And I love upgrading. It's always fun to get new stuff. So there's that. I learned all of that from my May 2-4 trip, which potentially maybe down the road, it'll be like a Festival of Errors video that I put out. It was a Festival of Errors in the recording. Not exactly the gear that I brought, but expectations. My expectation was that I was going to have amazing weather. I was going to be swimming. You know, all of these things were my expectation for the winter, or for that trip. Sorry, for the winter. For that trip, they were my expectations. The reality was, it was great. It was nice to visit a new site, a new place that I had never been to before. But, you know, not all things go to plan. It was still a great trip. It was just, I needed to learn some things, which I'm glad that I did end up learning. So that, and then, you know, I did a couple trips in June as well. My overnight, my solo overnight, which was my very first video I ever put in. Very first video is one night solo camping in the backcountry where I met up with my buddy and his lady, but they were across the bay from me, which was really cool. And that was actually the place the year and a half before that, a bear had actually came in when I was there by myself. So it was kind of like going back for a bit of redemption, in a sense of that. Not that I was scared, because I didn't leave the site when he did come in. It was just like, okay, I'm not scared of this, and I got to get over that fear. There's always a little bit of something in the back of your head that is, maybe that'll happen again. But I did that trip, which the editing of that was better than my first video that never got put out. But you know, when I fast forward to now, and I still have so much to learn, but it was a great experience. It was a wonderful night spent out there. Any night in the backcountry, one night's better than no nights, and it was a great trip. And then I had trips in between there. I had taken my sister and my nephew on their very first trip. I reminisced a little bit about that in a couple of my videos, and how awesome that was to share the experience with loved ones, and you know, take my nephew fishing and get him catching his first fish, and learning that my sister fished, and I didn't even know that my sister fished, for crying out loud, but she did, and she has, and she caught fish. Also broke my fishing rod, brand new one that I never used. She broke it. I never got to use it because it was broken. Bad. I never got to use it. Not even once. But we had a great weekend. And then, you know, camping, fishing weekend with my buddies, which is always just an absolute blast. Hanging out with them. And even if we don't catch fish, in fact, I think we were like dink slayers that weekend, because all we caught was dinks. Dinks on dinks on dinks on dinks. We caught a lot of fish. A lot of fish. But they was only itty bitty ones. So, you know, but the fun times and the memories are something that I look forward to every year with those guys, and looking forward to it next year. And then I had my longest solo trip to date, and I actually changed my location on where I went for my big trip, my 9-day solo in July. And I changed it maybe 5 days before I left for it. I was initially supposed to go to one place, and then my buddy had mentioned this other really cool place that he was going to go to, and thought it would be a great place to experience. He just happened to be there the week before I came with his lady, and they were all in the park, and then I joined them. I came on the Friday, and we spent a couple days together, which was wicked. But I changed that plan the Monday before. I was leaving on the Friday, and I changed my mind on like the Sunday night that this is where I was gonna go. But it turned out to be not only my most memorable trip, because it was the longest solo trip that I had ever done to date, but it was just such a beautiful, so remote, that at that point in time, the most remote place that I had been, I think. Pretty close to it. Yeah, most remote place that I'd been solo, and just to experience being so small in such a vast wilderness was incredible. The campsites were out of this world at that particular place. I stayed on the bay. That bay site that I had was just, it is something that, you know, here almost 6 months later, 5.5 months later, I close my eyes and I still think about it, and I still see it, and I still smell it, and I still feel it. And that was a life-changing trip, and life-changing in the sense of that trip solidified for me and to me that I want to do this. I want to be in the middle of nowhere, by myself, with somebody, by myself. I have no qualms about it, and that I love it. And that place forever left an imprint on me, an imprintation on me, that it just, you know, ignited this fire in me to go more remote, to go deeper, to experience the fishing. Now Never caught any fish on camera while I was recording during that trip. But believe you me, the fishing was top tier. Because it's backcountry and it's not fished all that often, and it's not outfished by people just coming for a weekend. I mean, it's a bit of a slog to get in, and once you get in, it's rewarding in every sense of the word. So that trip was just, I remember saying when I got back from it to coworkers and to family members, how do you go back to reality and back to normal life after experiencing that? Because I never wanted to leave. I would now, when it's like minus 155 degrees and there's 28 feet of snow outside. Absolutely, I would want to leave. Not a winter person, but I didn't. It was like I found home here and like where I belong. And that feeling is indescribable. And it just kind of subsequently happened also in every other trip that I did after that one as well. And I can only imagine that it'll be amplified by a million on more trips that I do in the future. And then, a couple overnighters. I did a 3 overnighter in August. My current series that's running, Crown Land Camping. And then I also did an overnighter in October, which was pretty good. It was the latest I had ever camped in my entire life in October, but the colors were phenomenal. And that video is yet to come, so I'm only going to throw a couple snippets in there. Only going to should peep it just a hair lit, because we don't want to give all that away. We want people to come back. But I had goals for each one. I wanted to catch a fish recording, and on my current series, I planned that entire weekend. My recording, I had already kind of planned to go out anyways camping that weekend, but the recording of that weekend was purely because I had not caught a fish on camera. And I was determined. I'm like, if I get a fish from morning till night, I am gonna get this done in my head again, reality, or wishful thinking versus reality. That I'm gonna fish from morning to night, and luckily I did it on day 2 before I even had coffee in the morning. Go figure. Before I even got any food in the old tum. But it was a great trip, and I found myself a lot of time on that trip just getting lost in how beautiful it was. Remoteness. That campsite was just my second favorite campsite that I had all of last year. That one for my Crown Land Camping overnight in September, that was my second favorite site for the entire summer. And the views were just phenomenal. The nature, getting to see the colors starting to change, some of them had already changed, was just out of this world and breathtaking. I think in the end of the video that I just put out the other day, I actually, kind of end it with, I'm just going to sit here and chill and take it all in, because there was a lot to take in. It was a culmination of everything I experienced, the places I got to see this past summer, but just the beauty of it, and feeling so small that, that place has been there for years, thousands of years. I've only been here for not that many. And hearing everything, it truly, until you go out, in fact, I was talking to my physiotherapist today about why I enjoy being out there, and trying to describe it and explain it is almost inexplainable sometimes. And I said to her, until you do it and experience it, you don't quite know, and you don't quite get it, and it doesn't make sense to a lot of people why myself, or people like me, obviously there's tons of them out there, like to do these things. And we're not completely crazy, maybe just a tiny bit, but it takes being out there and again, the feeling of satisfaction and depending on yourself, and then seeing and hearing nature, smelling nature, feeling nature, experiencing it, is, you can't get that living in a city. You can't. You go anywhere, any big city, and you're not gonna get that experience. And I've been to a lot of cities. Never once have I had that experience or those feelings. So it was phenomenal, and that trip just roundabouted it in me and kind of came to me in waves. I did not want to leave that place except for the impending winter coming, as I talked about first. And then I do an overnighter in my very last trip. Was super awesome too, because the fall colors were out, and it was probably one of the very last weekends where the colors were peak. There wasn't super amount of colors where I was. The drive up was phenomenal. The drive back home was great. There was color on the lake, and it was it was like 28 degrees on a weekend in October. And I mean, I remember sitting at home being like, how do you sit at home? It's gonna be 28 degrees and gorgeous. Let's get out in the boat and go camping, which is what I did. And you'll get to see that subsequent video in a hair lip of time. I will put it out. But to sum it up, we had an amazing 2025. Now that I've gabbed for a half an hour, I had an amazing 2025. My favorite trip, my July trip. Your favorite campsite, I already went through all of those experiences. Getting to that moose coming into camp was pretty top notch too. I was pretty puckered when that moose came in. I was like, holy cow. I was sleeping and it woke me up. I was like, what on earth is that? And I had an inclination that it was a moose. I actually do believe that I said that in the morning after the moose came in, that I was pretty sure it was, or a really big buck. But because it was a sound, as soon as I got home, and obviously you YouTube or Google, moose sounds at night or moose calls at night versus buck calls, etc., etc. It was like 18 seconds into a video. I'm like, yep, that's exactly what it was. And obviously I went around and saw some hoof prints too. So that was a top-notch experience for sure. But 2026 is coming, and coming in 2 days. And it's like 28 hours or something like that. It's something ridiculous. Like maybe 20, I don't know, I can't do math, but I need my nephew to do that. But my 7-year-old nephew to do that, I might add. Unless I think about it real hard, then I can do math. But typically I don't choose to do that, think real hard and or do math. But 2026 is coming, and man, I intend to keep up with these videos. Yeah, with 30 people watch, not even 30 people, it could be 10 people, it could be 5 people, it could be my mom and my dad, my auntie in the States, who already messaged me and was like, I love watching your videos. And it's just family members all over the place that are like, it's really cool to see what you're doing. And that's why I do it. My nephews know that I love the Texas Longhorns. Hook 'em, they play tomorrow. Hook 'em, horns. And that Amy's got a YouTube. Amy's on YouTube. Amy likes to fish and canoe in her boat, but they know that I have a YouTube, and that to me is really cool, and I absolutely intend to do it. I intend to upgrade my whole videoing equipment and etc., the old audio, because my audio is crap, man. Some of it, I gotta work on that a little bit in the editing, but that's about it. I got some big trips coming up. I'm gonna be dropping a video here the next little bit on my gear and stuff that I do use and stuff that is important to me. It's in my survival bag, pack and run, ditch and dump and dive, type of deal bag that a lot of people have asked me questions. So I kind of did a bit of a spiel inadvertently on one of my trips about what I bring. So I'm gonna put that into a video. It'll just be a short one, but just some info in case somebody sees this or that and decides, hey, I want to do this, where to start, what to do. Because if it wasn't for my buddy Wes, shout out again, the old Wesley, if it wasn't for him, then and even with him, I was pretty good, but there was a lot of stuff too that I wouldn't have thought of, or if I did, or if he mentioned it, I definitely ignored him. Sorry, Wes. But if you need a jumping point, and I had zero idea what I was doing. And it's the same with making these videos. Started out zero idea what I was doing. Not that I have any idea now, but I'm at least getting a little bit better, getting the hang of it. And hopefully, cheers to the future, that we keep putting them out. Some people keep watching, and thank you for all of those people that have subscribed to my channel, all 39 of them. I appreciate every single one of you, and I super enjoy making these videos. Hopefully some people enjoy watching them. And if you've got something, like, comments down below, anything, tips, tricks, always welcome them. Always thankful and grateful when anybody does send me anything for that. And with that, I'm going to say Happy New Year. Bring on 2026. I wish you all the health and happiness that a brand new year can bring. It's also a brand new year. Bring it on. Wishes, excitement and adventure. Ashley out.